Hey everyone, welcome and welcome back. Thank you for being here today. I have with me today my little Sphinx Mama Chia, and she is going to be a little bit of a guest of honor today. I mean, she's been in some of my other videos, but this video actually has a lot of her in it, and I'll explain why. There are some disclaimers in the description for this video. Please read those if you have not read them before, and if you find value throughout this video or any of the other videos, please like, subscribe, and most importantly share, so that those who need this information can get this information, whoever that may be. And it may be someone you don't even know needs it, so share openly to your comfort, and let's get started. So today is Saturday. It's very early on Saturday, and this little girl, this beautiful little Mama Chia here, actually, quite literally, this is not dramatic, quite literally died in my arms, in my hands on Tuesday. And she's obviously very much alive right now, but it was one of the most horrifying experiences of my life, which is saying a lot considering what my life has consisted of. But I'm going to go into what happened and why this video matters, and how the events of Tuesday really hit home for DV/IPV, and just understanding kind of what it means to be a survivor or a victim of not just DV/IPV, but also abuse in general, or some sort of horrible event where you or someone else was the victim of said event. So what happened? I'm hoping that I have some distance from this, and I have coffee to help me through it. So on Tuesday, it was actually my first day off. Was supposed to be my first day off of 3 days. So I love my job, but my job is incredibly demanding. It is all-encompassing, but it's also very, very important, because I train people all over the world to keep themselves safe and secure as part of an organization, as part of a major company. And so I was really looking forward to some days off, because as you can see, I'm absolutely exhausted. Tuesday morning, I had an alarm set, I think for like 6:30, in the off chance I would actually sleep in, 6:30 a.m. And I woke just 5 a.m. on the dot. 5 a.m. I awoke, and I had some things that I had to do for work before I had signed off, and I was going to be done. And so I work from home, and I'm sitting at my desk, and I'm just writing emails and doing my job, and no one's around. It's very quiet. Well, right now we are fostering a baby piglet that we're hand feeding because its mom rejected him. And so we offered to help, and I say fostering, it's totally a foster failure. Whatever. Hey Tia, come here. So anyway, I hear this really strange sound. Now, Chia, excuse me while I grab her. Watch your head. Chia had been, she was a kind of a Craigslist save, even though she's a Sphinx. People get rid of Sphinx like crazy because they don't know how to take care of them. So she was a Craigslist save, and she, right when I got her, had gotten a really bad upper respiratory infection. I took her to the vet. She was put on some antibiotics, but she never seemed to quite clear it. And so when I went, I said, may I get different antibiotics? And the vet at the time was like, I don't know. Do you want out? Do you want out? Go ahead. Here you go. At the time, the vet had said, I think it's just allergies. And I was like, okay, sure. And so a couple months went by, and she just never really quite got better. I had talked to them about it again. They were like, no, it's just allergies. So then in, what month are we in? So in end of August, I took her back because she got a hematoma on her ear, and at the time her breathing was just not awesome. So got an x-ray of her chest, because the doctor thought, this is a different doctor, thought that she might have asthma. Well, she didn't have asthma. And it was just one of those things where, oh, she's just got bad allergies. So come back to Tuesday, which was October 1st, and I'm sitting there and I'm hearing this really strange sound, and I'm thinking it's the piglet because it's just so odd and it's at a distance. So I get up and I go to grab the piglet's bottle and I'm gonna go feed him, and I look and it's not the piglet, it's Chia, and she's just making this really strange sound. And my partner was with me. He had awakened early actually as well, which is kind of strange, but we're looking at him, and in prior videos I had mentioned that he's going to school to be you know, an EMT paramedic, and so he has some of that training already that he's been going through. And so he goes to grab the stethoscope, and I'm looking at her thinking, I think she's trying to vomit. Like, I don't really know what's happening, but it looks like she's trying to vomit. Then the sound she's making is kind of like a hairball. Well, yes, she is hairless. I have other pets with hair, and so co-grooming will actually result in a Sphinx getting hairballs. So I'm like, okay, so she's you know, gonna cough up a hairball. And so we're sitting there and we're encouraging her and just being like, it's okay, like you're fine, and comforting her. So my partner goes to get his stethoscope just to make sure that her breathing is okay, and when he goes to get her, she runs off. So I go, oh, I'll get her. So I go up the stairs, and she's at the head of the stairs, and I look at her, and she has begun foaming at the mouth. So immediately, I know that there's something seriously wrong. Now, I don't know if it's that she's gotten into something, which would be surprising because we don't have those kinds of things in our house that would result in a pet or a child or an adult getting hurt. But I'm like, she must have gotten into something. Maybe she's eaten one of those moths that causes, you know, that I don't know if it will kill them, but it causes severe reactions like that. Or she's choking, she's got something going on. So I immediately say, I'm going. And we all know what that means in this house. So I run out the door. He grabs Chia and runs out after me. I grab the soft carrier. We unfortunately force her in so that she's safe, and I get in the car and I'm driving away. And as I'm driving to the emergency vet, which is about 8 minutes down the road, I can hear that her breathing, oh, maybe I don't have as much distance from this as I thought. I can hear her breathing getting really, really labored. And so I call the vet and I tell them I'm en route. I'm going to be there in about 5 to 7 minutes. My cat, I believe, is in respiratory distress. I'm going to be bringing her in. I need emergency services as soon as I get there. And they say, okay. So literally within 30 seconds, 45 seconds maybe, of me leaving, I'm exiting my neighborhood, and she starts to flail violently in the bag. And having the history I have with pets, with animals, I know that she is really, really struggling. So she's freaking out because something really bad is happening. So I'm driving, I pull her out of the bag, and I can see that she can't breathe. And she's foaming at the mouth, and I get to the stoplight, and my security brain is like, you can't run a red light. That's just what happens. And, you know, my safety brain, because at the end of the day, if I run a red light, I could cause an accident and kill all of us, you know, the cat, me, another human, other humans, other pets if they're in their car. And there's a cop right next to me. So I'm like just totally beside myself. I have called the vet again to tell them this is happening. And I notice that she is dying, and it is the most helpless feeling watching this happen and not knowing what to do. And so I'm holding her and I begin to scream. Now, anybody who has heard, I don't even know if it would require that you've heard this before. I think Chia wants back in. Do you want back in? Are you coming? Oh, okay. Thank you. That's nice. Welcome back. So anyone who has heard the sound for sure, but even if you haven't, I feel like this would still transcend. You would still feel it. When something catastrophic like death happens to a loved one, there is this scream and it chills your bones. It's something that it doesn't sound, at least to me, like anything else. And I've talked to others and they say the same. It's just this it has a totally different wavelength. It has a totally different sound wave. And so I'm recognizing that my cat is dying in my hands, and I love my pets. Anybody who has seen my other videos, I love my pets very much. And so I start to scream because this is basically my family member, my child, like not equivalent to my child, but like my family member, a child of mine dying in my hands. And so I start screaming, and the woman on the other line, or on the other end of the line, her name was Amy. And I'm finding that is a quite beautiful name. People who have the name Amy tend to be quite beautiful people. But, and she just sat there with me. She was quiet, but I was screaming and I was yelling Chia's name, and then as I'm sitting at the red light, not able to move, not able to do anything, she dies. And how do I know that she died? She went completely white, and her face was gone. She had nothing. There's a certain face that deceased cats make. Being a prior vet tech, and all of that, I've seen it. And having lost pets before, I've seen it. And so she has this mouth shape, and she goes completely limp. She's literally like a cat slinky in my hand. She's completely limp, and her body released the contents of her bladder, so her body evacuated her urine, because at that point there was nothing keeping her urine inside of her. So I know what has happened, and I am screaming, and I'm literally yelling, trying to do something. I didn't know, and help. And instinct kicked in. That's perfect timing. I needed you right now. Instinct kicked in, and I grab her body and I throw. This is literally the cat that I'm talking about right now, which is a little bizarre, because she's perfectly fine now. But I take her body and I throw her butt over my left shoulder, and she's upside down against my chest, and I'm holding. This is kind of hard. Just imagine we'll just do it this way. Just imagine she's upside down. And so I'm holding her with my left hand like this, and I begin to hit her on her side with my right hand. And I am hitting her hard. Like, this is one of those things that I am running off pure instinct. I'm not thinking about, like, what's going to happen after. I'm thinking I need to save my cat. And the only thing I can think is if she has an airway obstruction, that I need to clear the obstruction so that she can breathe again. So I'm alternating between hitting her, the left side of her chest to clear the obstruction, and actually giving her compressions to restart her heart. And then I'm also rubbing her to try to get blood flowing. So in my head, like, I'm not thinking about any of this. Yes, I do have some training, minimal, not in emergency services like this, but in terms of experience and history, I have some training, and I'm just running off pure instinct. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna try to do something. So I continue to do this after the light turns green, and I am driving down one of the busiest roads in Phoenix. Luckily, it was very early in the morning, so there weren't a lot of people around, but I'm driving down one of the busiest roads in Phoenix, giving my cat some sort of kitty Heimlich and like compressions and rubbing her body to get her going. And it worked. And I honestly, still to this day, cannot believe that worked. So the lady on the phone, she ends up saying to me, ma'am, just please get here safely. We will help you as soon as you get here. She was wonderful, wonderful person. And at the time we had hung up, Chia wasn't back yet. She was still deceased, and I hadn't even started the life-saving measures. And so I continued to drive the full 7 minutes, talking to her, telling her that I love her, that it's going to be okay. And about probably a minute and a half, a couple minutes, maybe 2 minutes after I had started this, I can feel her body starting to become more tense. I can feel her body starting to warm up. and then I can kind of see like her kind of moving, I can feel her moving, and then I see her kind of pick her head up. Now, the rest of the way, she didn't even move. She didn't try to get away. She didn't try to run. She didn't try to do anything. She literally just sat there and allowed me to continue patting her, like hitting her on the side, rubbing her, giving her compressions, like just talking to her, doing everything that I could to keep her awake until I got to the vet. So I get to the vet and I run in, and of course they're already waiting for me because I have called twice and I've been screaming on the phone, so they know that it's really bad. And I run in and they immediately take me back to the emergency room, and the vet's back there and they start to work on her. They start to give her oxygen. Now, of course, it's like a car sound. You go to the mechanic and you're like, my car's making a sound. And they're like, what sound? And you're like, I don't know. Like, and you start, I know I'm not the only one who does this. I know this for a fact. But you start trying to make the sound. And so you're talking to the mechanic and you're like, it's like a, as you're driving. And they're like, okay. And they get in the car and they drive it around. They're like, I don't hear anything. And you're like, no, it's there. It's there every single time. Okay, here, do this, right? We've been through this. So that's how I feel at the vet right now, except for my cat's just died. But I'm bringing this cat in and she looks perfectly fine. She looks like nothing even happened. So I guess my cat's like kitty gaslighting right now because I'm like, no, this is what happened. And so I'm telling the vet, I'm telling the tech, I'm telling the vet, I'm like, this is exactly what happened. I'm going through everything. And I'm absolutely panicking because of what just happened. So I'm like literally hyperventilating. I'm trying to calm down. And I'm kind of catching my breath and I'm calming down, and they're looking at me like, okay. And I'm explaining everything. And I can tell they believe me, but they're still kind of like in shock of like what's happening. And so am I. And so we end up getting her stabilized. They put her in an oxygen chamber. They're like, yes, she's absolutely congested. They've done, an ultrasound on her in front of me. She has no blood clots, nothing like that, but she's congested and she needs to go into the oxygen chamber. And I'm like, okay. And during this time, I'm making really, really bad jokes because like, I don't know what else to do and I'm freaking out. And so we're kind of just like in this awkward state. And then as things start to calm down, this is when that victim survivor mentality, nobody's gonna believe me, I'm gonna be accused of something I didn't do, comes in, right? And now we're to the DV IPV, being a survivor and having this experience. I've had this for a very, very long time, like throughout the entirety of the relationship I was in, and then very much thereafter, this thought of, they're not going to believe me, or they're going to blame me. Now, this is one of the, there were many reasons why I stayed, but this was one of the reasons, is because to me, the idea of telling anybody what was going on was stupid. It wasn't even just like inconvenient or like uncomfortable. It had nothing to do with that. It was stupid. And I'll tell you why. Because if I, like when you go to the hospital, right? Like I was very sick a lot, haven't been since I fled, but I would go to the hospital a lot, and they always ask that question, do you feel safe at home? Now in my head, I'm like, oh, hell no, I don't. I don't, it's not even a feeling. I know I'm not safe at home. But I couldn't say that. So I would just go, yeah. And why would I do that? Because why would I be dumb enough to be like, no, I don't feel safe at home. Like my husband is extremely abusive and abuses me in every way, shape, and form, like every single day. And I am absolutely convinced he's going to murder me. So let's say they even did something, right? Okay, well, then you basically are filing this report, or like if you've been injured as, a result of a DV assault or an IPV assault or any kind of abusive assault or anything like that, you don't go to the doctor, like, unless you absolutely have to, because what happens is you go and you get treatment and you say what's happened, right? And it gets documented, and then there might be charges, there might be an investigation, maybe, but you can't stay there. You got to go home. You got to go back to this person. So it's not like in your head you're like, oh, let me go on ahead and disclose all of this horrible stuff that's happening to me so that nothing is going to happen. And now this person that just unsuccessfully attempted to end me or intentionally caused significant harm to me, now I'm going to go back to that person and like hope they don't find out that I reported them. No, like that's like you're punching your own ticket at that point. Like you're just like, oh, okay, like I guess I'll see you on the other side. You're choosing it. And so, you know, this mentality of like not saying anything and not wanting to say anything and it not being safe to say anything is a very real thing. Then there is this huge piece which I have learned since being out of, they're not going to believe me. There are so many people at this point who have seen the evidence, who have seen the incredible amount of evidence and all of the police reports and all of the Child Protective Services reports and the photos and the criminal history he has and whatever, and they still don't believe me. They still think that like somehow I have managed to just convince all of these agencies or all of these people that like he's this person when he's not. Like I don't get it. But you have this, like people, I don't understand how this is possible, or they believe that it's happened, but somehow they believe that it's your fault. Like, what did you do to get him to that point? No. Unless literally someone is coming at you with like certain harm, a weapon, certain death, like there's no combination of words that justifies someone, you know, can justify someone beating you mercilessly, beating you senselessly, sexually assaulting you. Like there's no combination of words, there's no combination of outfits, there's no combination of events that is going to be like, oh, this is totally okay now. No. But this is a very, very common thought process with victims, that they don't think that anybody's going to believe them, and so they don't report things, or they kind of like somewhat report or what have you. So back at the vet clinic, and they take Chia and they go to put Chia in the oxygen chamber. And my brain immediately says, they don't believe me. She came in perfectly fine. They're not going to believe me. They think that I made this up. They think that I'm crazy. They think that I made this up. So now I'm gaslighting myself, because that's a tactic I learned over 10 years, that it's my fault. I'm the problem. And so I'm gaslighting myself, and I'm gaslighting myself with things telling me like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Like it wasn't that big of a deal. That didn't really happen. It wasn't that extreme. And I start literally just disclosing this information like as if they've accused me of something, and they literally have done nothing of the sort. But I'm immediately like, okay, I'm really sorry, but so she's hairless and she's white, right? So she's like pink, she's like white. And so I was hitting her really, and I'm literally panicking like this, right? Like I can see the recording of myself in my head. I have, I guess, what's called eidetic memory, so I can see everything, I remember everything, I can feel everything. That's why these videos are so hard to record. But so I'm like mimicking what I was doing. I was like, look, I was holding her, I was hitting her like really hard, like I was hitting her really, really hard, and I'm sorry. I would never hurt my pets. I would never hurt my children. I would never hurt another human being. Like I work in security. Like I would like my job is in keeping people safe, keeping animals safe. I'm a nationally certified animal cruelty investigator. Like I literally investigate people who hurt animals on purpose. Like I don't do that. I didn't know what to do. And she was dead. She was dead. She like, her bladder had evacuated, like she was dead in my hands, and I didn't know what else to do. So I threw over my shoulder, and like I was smacking her, trying to clear her airway and trying to clear any obstruction there was. And I was like hitting her, and I was hitting her really hard. So if she has any bruises, I'm so sorry. This is literally what is happening. Now, let's get some perspective here, okay? Like whatever people say, like point of view. This is probably within 15 minutes. Okay, this whole thing is maximum 15 minutes from the moment I saw her foaming at the mouth at my house to the point where I'm literally having this conversation with the vet and in the emergency room, in the pet emergency room. 15 minutes. And in this 15 minutes, I have gone from pretty much just awakening and working to noticing that my cat is in distress to having my cat die in my hands that I love immensely, to driving down one of the busiest roads in the state I'm in, and in the city I'm in, which is a very, 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 very big city, very busy city. And I'm literally, during this drive, giving my cat the Heimlich compressions, rubbing her body, like driving with my knee, trying to get to an emergency vet to run in. I left my keys in my car. I left my backpack in my car. I left everything in my car. I literally just grabbed my cat and went in. I didn't do anything else. And watching them make sure she's okay. That's what's just happened. And instead of in my head, which was everybody else's response that has heard about this, saying, holy shit, I just saved my freaking cat. Like, I literally just revived this living creature that I love so much, that was not living and is now living. I did that, right? That is not what crossed my mind. And honestly, still to this day, you want to know the difference between like an abuser and like their victim survivor? My abuser claimed, in another video I go over this, in the not wanting to live video I go over this, my abuser claimed to save my life after he tried to carry out my suicide attempt for me. I'm literally sitting here like, I can't even take credit for saving my cat because that is disgusting to me. That is wrong. This creature just died and I am just so grateful she's alive. Big difference there. But as I'm sitting here, you would think in my head, I would be like, holy shit, I can't believe I just saved my cat. I can't believe that worked, which was later. But no, my immediate response once things calmed down was, they're not going to believe me. They're going to think I intentionally hurt my cat and I'm just making this all up. They're going to think that I did something to put in her throat to cause the airway obstruction. Like, I'm literally going through this in my head and I start going through, I should have reacted sooner. I should have seen it sooner. How did I not see this? How did I not know what was happening? How did I not know that her airway was obstructed? How did I not see that 30 seconds sooner? If I would have seen that 30 seconds sooner, if I would have known this, if I would have done literally, if my hair would have been dyed red instead of whatever color it is, like, this would have never happened. This would have never happened. This is all my fault. I did this, and I'm not even like exaggerating here. This is literally what my brain is going through. So again, I've just saved my cat's life. I have literally just revived my cat with Heimlich and compressions while driving to the vet to save her, and she's fine. And all I'm thinking about is, they're not going to believe me. They think I'm crazy. They're going to think that I don't take care of my cat. They're going to think that I abuse my cat. This is going to be a whole thing. No, this is totally illogical. And here's the thing, in the moment, I know this is illogical. I know that this makes no sense. I know consciously, logically, that this is not right, right? Like, I'm fully recognizing this in the moment, but my subconscious, like, I am triggered at this point. I am freaking out. I am like experiencing this traumatic experience in real time, but I'm also triggered of all the other things that I have experienced, not only in that 10 years of being abused and going through this process of, they're not going to believe me. It's all your fault. You did this. You triggered him, and therefore, and you're crazy, and everything that he told me, right? But then the 2 years since, how many times I've been investigated, how many times, which I have always been cleared by many, 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 many agencies, how many psych evals I've had to take, how many, in mental health assessments and DV assessments and all of this stuff. So I have had to go through the exact same procedures, if you will, that he has, even though I have literally zero history at all. No criminal history, nothing. I have worked in security my entire career. My entire career has been in keeping people safe. If you talk to anybody, there are mitigation letters that people who have known me for over a decade or decades have written. If you look at my letters of recommendation from when I was 16, 17 years old, and the mitigation letters from when I was 34 years old, you would have thought that these people got in the same room and were like, okay, what are we going to say? Right? But they didn't, because they're literally almost 20 years apart. But they were so identical, because I am the same person and I have been the same person. But the system basically painted me out to be a perpetrator of domestic violence and sexual assault and child molestation, just like just like my abusive ex. Right? So this has been 12 years of this. And so there's no way, even though I've been out of that environment for just over 2 years now, I'm not out, because the system allows it to enable the system, or allows it to persist and enables this behavior. Right? So now I have been basically treated as if I have been the perpetrator, as if I have been the abuser, even though that could not be further from the truth. And that has been proven repeatedly by, I don't even know how many agencies at this point, and I don't even know how many psychological professionals, mental health professionals, medical doctors who have cleared that this is literally nothing to do with me. But in my mind, that's what I've been conditioned to believe, right? And even though consciously I know this isn't true, that doesn't change that emotionally this is what I'm feeling, that I am triggered, that my PTSD is triggered, that emotionally my subconscious mind, my emotions come from my subconscious, doesn't matter what I think, my feelings are my feelings, this is the experience I'm having. And luckily, through therapy and through just a lot of introspection, I don't muddy my mind with, things like on the internet, with like social media or anything like that. So I have time to sit there, like when I'm driving, what have you, I'm thinking about like what is happening, and I'm processing information, and I'm being introspective of like, why did I respond this way? Why do I feel this way? What happened? But I will tell you that even after those feelings persisted, and I have my safe people. So I would highly recommend, if you're going through something, have a safe person or a safe set of people. And they don't have to all be for the same purpose, right? Like I have my more emotional support, and I have kind of my more logical support. And I usually talk to all of them. And I get varying perspectives on what's happened, so that I can kind of retrain my brain on what a typical, like normal, I guess, response is. And if my mind, my subconscious is telling me something that's false. But this persisted, this feeling of all the things I should have done different, all the things I should have seen or done or felt or believed, or the actions I should have taken, or whatever. And while I am incredibly, incredibly grateful that she is here, I still cannot take credit for it. I still can't accept that that's what happened. And to me, I have basically chalked it up to universal intervention, my instinct, just my love for my cat, telling me what to do and knowing what to do in that moment. And that is not something I would take credit for. That is something that was given to me. It was gifted to me in that moment of need. And this is very similar to the final event on my birthday, when I just knew I needed to protect my child. And so I did what I had to do to protect my child. And it was instinct. It was my love for him, because he was there, and my love for my daughter, who wasn't there at the time, thank the universe, telling me what I needed to do, and believing in my gut, believing in my instinct, and knowing, what needed to happen. And so I definitely implore anyone who listens to this, your gut instinct is not made up. It's not fake. Humans are animals, right? If we talk about a cat, this is a non-human animal. We are humans. We are animals. Literally look up the scientific nomenclature, the classification. We are literally in Kingdom Animalia. We are animals. We have instincts. We need to trust those instincts. We are conditioned to think that our instincts are wrong. But if you have that instinct, trust it. Now, does this mean, oh, I have an instinct to go do something terrible? No. That's not what I mean. What I mean is, if you feel in your gut, you feel that something is wrong, it probably is. Like, get convinced that it's not. Don't just be like, oh, I'm just making it up, or, gaslighting yourself. Oh, I'm just being ridiculous, or I'm being emotional. No, that's what you are conditioned to believe. That is what you are conditioned to say to yourself, or even to say to others, right? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just being emotional. No, your instincts are valid. Is it possible that you're allowing your emotions to kind of get the best of you and you're kind of like flying off the handle? Yeah, sure. But your emotions are valid. Your feelings are valid. Your experiences are valid. So just knowing that and believing in your gut and knowing if something is wrong, it probably is. Just double check, just make sure. If you are in a relationship of any kind, whether that be a relationship with a significant other, a relationship with a family member, a relationship with a friend, whether they're a new friend or a friend of 30 years, a relationship with a colleague, right? Or your business or a nonprofit organization or whatever that you work for, and you feel like something's not right, I would highly recommend you take some significant distance until you figure it out, until you know where that feeling is coming from, and you validate that feeling is kind of more of just like a fear maybe, as opposed to a legitimate concern that needs to be addressed. Because that's what ends up happening with, at least what ended up happening with me, and what I've heard has happened with many others, is they get into this relationship, they want to be there for that person, they kind of feel like something's not right, but they don't trust it, they don't trust their gut. They start to tell themselves, oh, well, it's just because I'm hurt from my last relationship, or it's my unresolved trauma from my childhood that's, making me have this feeling. No, chances are good there's something wrong there. Trust your gut, believe your gut, and act accordingly, and make sure that you're protecting yourself. So with all of that said, I think I kind of went off on tangents a little bit. This was a very, very hard thing for me to recall. But the point of this video being that trauma that is experienced as a survivor of anything, that feeling of they're not going to believe me, that response of defending yourself before anything has even, you haven't even been accused of anything, that almost makes you look guilty, the feeling of shame, the second guessing, third guessing, fourth guessing of yourself, and all the things that you should have done different, all the things that you could have done better, all of that, really that self-hatred, that self-deprecation, all of that is very, very real. And it's going to come up in times that when you don't really expect it, or you might not even realize it's happening in real time like I did. I have that too, where it's happening, and then afterwards I'm like, why was I apologizing? I didn't even do anything. But for whatever reason in that moment, my brain, my subconscious mind believed that I was in danger, or believed that the environment, the situation called for this behavior. And what I will say is, that's not necessarily going to change. I don't know that I don't know, right? Because I can't foresee the future. I'm going to keep going to therapy, and eventually, hopefully, this will all end and I will stop being raped through the system. But until that point, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if this response that I have very often is going to change. But here's what I do know, and here's what I will share. It's okay. It is okay to not be okay. And I know that sounds really, really stupid and cliche, but it's true. It is okay to not be okay. It is okay to feel. It is okay to have emotion. It is okay to have your experiences and know that your experiences are valid. It's not okay to use them as an excuse. If they're crappy experiences, it's not okay to use them as an excuse to be a crappy person. But it is okay to acknowledge those experiences, to know those experiences. It's okay to make mistakes. In hindsight, when I've looked back on this situation, there's literally nothing I could have done different. There was no indicator before that. Nobody, even a medical professional, I went through it with the vet. There's quite literally nothing that could have been done different. Nothing, right? That would have resulted in anything else better. But I forgive myself for thinking that there was. I forgive myself for shaming myself and second guessing myself. I know that I did everything that I could. And even if there was something that could have been done different, I did everything I could in that moment, given the information I had and the tools I had available to me. I did everything I possibly could. And you know what? That's enough. Yes, she lived, and I am so incredibly grateful. But here's the thing. Even if she hadn't, I still did everything that I possibly could. And even if I had done something different or someone else had done something different, if you walk out of that situation knowing that you did everything that you possibly could and you had the purest intent and you acted out of love, I see you. That's enough. That is enough. So, with all of that, take care of yourselves. Realize that, especially at any point, but especially if you are a survivor or even a victim, I hope you get out. But if you are a victim or a survivor or a family member or a friend, an advocate, an ally to someone or many people who have experienced severe abuse, or even not severe abuse, just abuse in general, domestic violence, intimate partner violence, child abuse, sexual abuse, any of these, right? The thoughts and feelings that you have thereafter or during, they're real. And the feelings of they're not going to believe me, those are real feelings. But I will tell you, there are people that do. And I didn't believe that when I was in it, and I've learned to pick and choose who I think will believe me and who won't. But there are people who believe you, and there are people who want to help, and there are resources. And I know that it's painful and terrifying to go towards them. I know this from experience. But reach out to somebody who will help you get through that, because the abuse, it won't end. No matter what anybody says and no matter what that person who is abusing you says, it's never going to end. So the only chance you have is to reach out, is to get that help. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Again, I'm sorry that this video was a little bit disjointed. It was a very difficult video to record because it's still very, very fresh in my mind. But please like, share, subscribe, comment. Let's keep the conversation going, and let's save some lives together. Thank you.